A 17-point lead at halftime, and it all went away. They dropped all of it. All of it. 34-31 the final. The 49ers reach the Super Bowl. The Lions go on vacation. San Francisco getting the victory. They scored 17 points in an 8-minute stretch of the third quarter to tie the NFC Championship game. Pull away in the fourth quarter. Lions had a chance to kick a field goal and tie the game. They decided to go for it. How'd that work out? Well, not so good. So it'll be the 49ers and the Chiefs in Super Bowl 58. We've seen that before, 4 years ago, and we'll see it again. See it again in less than 2 weeks, 13 days away. But the better story is in the losing locker room, so that is where we begin. Who is responsible? I need names. Who is responsible for the Lions gagging in the NFC Championship game? I've got Guardian Angel, Dungeons and Dragons, and Meow Mix. And we'll combine all of these things together, and we are going to make a slightly above average Maller monologue. That is how we are going to do it. So, number one. So the 49ers, they're being celebrated for coming back, and there's a lot of people pumping the tires on Shanahan and the coaching staff. And talk about bearing the lead here. The lead is Detroit. That's the story there, because without the assist by the Lions, it's impossible for the Niners to come back from 17 down without some stumble-bum football from the Detroit football team. And one thing the Lions have done very well over the years is find ways to screw things up. Now, normally they just do it on a random Week 7 game no one's watching. But this was the biggest stage you could be in outside of the Super Bowl. And fumble! Turnover! Oh, this, that, and the other. This, that, and the other thing. So never underestimate the ability to screw up, which is the Detroit Lions, and I don't care how you can change this, that, and the other thing. We call it like we see it here under the cover of darkness, and we'll start here with Dan Campbell, who's the perfect fall guy for the Lions. He is. Now, in this game, Dan Campbell worked as a guardian angel for the 49ers, which is bizarre because he's being paid by the Lions. Don't understand why he chose to do that, but he did. A couple of crucial decisions that blow the mind of the normal consumer of NFL product. And it's this great divide. There's such a juxtaposition between the nerd element of football, which has taken over and is spread like vermin around the NFL, and those that have just grown up watching football and just say, okay, so you have a chance to take a 3-score lead, probably should kick the field goal. Have a chance to tie the game in the fourth quarter, probably should do that. Instead, the Poindexter crowd has chimed in on this, and they're like, oh, no, don't ever criticize Dan Campbell. There's a lot of whataboutism I've noticed. Well, what about the turnover? What about this? What about that? What about you kick the stupid field goal, moron? How about that, dummy? How about that, moron? Your whataboutism. It's ridiculous. So stupid. Instead of taking the points, inflating the lead, and putting pressure, continuing to add pressure, knowing that the Niners are now going to have multiple extra scoring drives to get it done. No! We're not going to play that game. No. It's like the Bible. We lived by the sword. We're going to die by the sword. We lived by the nerd. We will die by the nerd. Yeah. General Custer, Little Bighorn. We're going to go in there. We're going to get rid of everybody, and we'll all be dead by the time we're done. So Dan Campbell, I don't know whether he choked on the largest slice of Detroit-style blame pizza, but he gets the biggest piece of the blame pizza, working as a guardian angel, the real 12th man. I hope he got a game ball. I don't know if he did or not, but if I'm the Niners, I give him a game ball. I send a care package to the analytical department there in Detroit. I say, thank you. Do that again if we play in the playoffs. Please, go for it. Yes. Good job by you. Yeah. Oh, good. Oh, smart. Oh, that's what the numbers said. Okay. Here's Dan Campbell, who was asked about why he's so stupid to go for it on fourth down, and here's what he said.
I just felt really good about us converting, and getting our momentum and not letting them play long ball. You know, they were bleeding the clock out. That's what they do. And I wanted to get the upper hand back. It's easy hindsight, and I get it, you know. I get that. But I don't regret those decisions, and that's hard. You know, it's hard because, you know, we didn't come through. It wasn't able to work out, but I don't. And I understand the scrutiny I'll get. That's part of the gig, man. You know, we just didn't work out.
Wow. I like Dan Campbell, but if I owned the Lions, I'd fire Dan Campbell after that. I mean, you screwed up. Like, what are you doing? Seriously. Is this going to be like the Chargers coach? That we going to see him on the sidelines doing the downward dog pose before a game now? Because it sounds a lot like the Chargers blew a 27-point lead because of the analytics against Jacksonville in the playoffs, right? Oh, yeah, no. The numbers say we're good to go and all that. And they finally got around to getting rid of that coach. But it's blind sheep going with the analytics. It's ridiculous. Well, here's Dan Campbell getting very emotional, talking about why he's a bad coach and why he cost his team the game.
I think I said it pretty vividly. It's like getting your heart ripped out, and it's hard. You know, it's hard. And no, we didn't come in at halftime. We were doing backflips like, all right, we got this thing won. They know better. We all know better. We talked about it. We knew they were going to make a run in the second half. We talked about it. We knew we were going to have to weather a storm in the second half. And so when they started to make a push, we weren't surprised. We just couldn't counter back. And we've always been able to counter back. We just couldn't quite do it in this one.
Yeah. Wow, that is pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. All right, here's more. Now, page 2, the big conversation, which will go on for weeks here, and it was the analytical-based decision. Rather than extend the lead, continue to add points, thus what we've all grown up with, making it more difficult for the 49ers, in theory, knowing that, hey, the Lions are going to keep adding points here. And even if it's a field goal, and the field goal is not great, I get it. You'd rather have a touchdown. But if you're in the lead, you go for the field goal because you extend the lead. Well, Fox Sports' Greg Olsen, who's being kicked out of that booth here soon, and I'm not upset by that after his rant. Did you see he lectured? He gave a sermon. If you're watching the broadcast, Greg Olsen gave a sermon that you can't criticize the Lions for going for it on fourth down because the outcome did not work. Okay. All right. So can you unravel what that meant and just the analytical mindset which is widespread in all of our sports? So the analytical nerds have taken over, and there's a lot of dumb broadcasters that just repeat what the analytical department tells them. But look at the numbers. Look at the numbers, they tell us. Oh, look at the numbers. And so they've gone to this. The nerds have this Dungeons and Dragons type setup. It's the ring of protection that is around them because, as silly as it sounds, I've been in conversations with people that are in this world, and the very premise of being a sports fan is designed to question the outcome, right? And maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe you're just supposed to support your team no matter what, no matter how many idiots work for your team and make bad decisions. But I was raised where, no, you hold people accountable. Right, and the very premise of the setup of analytics is to not hold people accountable. And the analytics have cost multiple teams in this era from advancing or winning championships. And yet, we're not supposed to bring it up. It's the strangest thing, right? It really is. Dan Campbell can now have dinner reservations. He can have chow with Kevin Cash. Remember Kevin Cash? He's the manager of the Tampa Bay baseball team, Kevin Cash. Kevin Cash is a guy in Game 6 of the World Series during a global pandemic, had a guy who was throwing darts. Bro, I'm risking my life, bro! Blake Snell.
Bro, I'm risking my life.
He was at the height of his superpowers, shutting down the Dodger lineup, batter after batter. But Kevin Cash looked at the numbers. He looked at the analytics, and he said, you know what? I've got to take this guy out of the game because I want some low-rung flunky in the bullpen. I'd rather have that guy and a parade of those guys. And they gave the game back to the Dodgers. But the analytics after the game, the analytics, we follow the numbers, third time through the lineup. And the problem, again, you're blindly going down these rabbit holes and you are ignoring the individual context. And no one's been able to explain that, right? Like the analytical percentages, which we hear all the time and get regurgitated by meathead broadcasters and nerds, the analytical percentages only work when things are equal, right? Like the teams are different, right? So in different situations, like, well, this year in the NFL, teams that went for it on fourth down converted, 49% of the time. Okay, how many teams went for it who were better than the other team or worse than the other team? Because wouldn't that screw up the percentages? And they've always got an answer. Well, the DOVA or whatever, throw some letters together. That covers it. Right? They throw that out there. But as a famous sportscaster taught me when I was a young lad, stats tell you what has happened, not what's going to happen, but yet the analytical departments believe that stats tell you what is going to happen. Right? They tell you what is going to happen, and they leave no wiggle room for the out-of-the-box performance, the great dominant performance, overcoming the numbers with a stellar performance. There's no room for that because it's not in the analytics. Those are outliers. You cannot have outliers. All right, final point quickly. How should Brock Purdy, system guy, and the 49ers, how should Brock Purdy and the 49ers feel after beating the Lions and really being given the game by Dan Campbell and the Detroit football team? So they should be grateful. At this point, you look at these couple of playoff games for the Niners, and they're eating high-end Meow Mix, like the cat with 9 lives here, Brock Purdy, as that pussy cat almost lost to the Packers, could have lost this game to the Lions, down 17 points at halftime. And Kansas City, that they're up next, and are they going to futz away a game to the 49ers also? Is Andy Reid going to make the wrong decision like Dan Campbell? And I love the whataboutism, though. I can't, well, what about this? What about that? You can't blame the numbers. You can't blame the analytics. Okay, thank you. And Brock Purdy has played like we expected Brock Purdy to play. 2 playoff games. He has got 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. By my count, 3 other dropped interceptions, 2 by Green Bay, 1 by the Lions at least, that I jotted down. And his passer rating in the 2 playoff games is 87.7. He's basically Jared Goff. You've got Jared Goff and better players around him. That's what you got. Not exactly Steve Young or Joe Montana 2.0. And the Niners are favored in Super Bowl 58 in Vegas, 13 days away. And they can win the game, but they won't win it because of Brock Purdy. He's not the reason you win games. He could be the reason you lose games.